Sam, the Frugal Gardener, and today, since I got my garden all planted, I need to do a few things. And one is I need to water. Two is I need to fertilize. I also got to go over a couple drip heads and do a few things. But first, let me go ahead and before I get into my fertilizer and my fertilizers that I have in my cart over here, and before I get into my well pump and my fertilization system, let's go over to the garden so I can show you what I'm going to be fertilizing, and then we'll get into the products and how I fertilize. So let's get going. Okay, so it's first thing in the morning and I'm out here in front of my garden. That's my hugelkultur area over there. Very large. That's probably 3 times the size of my garden. And this is my garden over here. It's a very large garden. It grows more than I'll ever eat and more than I could ever give away. I always have so much. And then that is my watermelon area over there. And right out here in front, going all the way down, I'm planting some very rare banana plants this season. So last season I went ahead and I prepared these beds. I got a video online. I used a tractor bucket, went 6 foot wide and 3 foot down, filled it all with composted organic matter. And where you see the PVC pipes over here, I think those are in the video, that's where I'm going to go ahead and plant my banana plants. And as you can see, all the way down that way, you see every now and then you see some PVC pipes sticking out, and the same thing over here. So this year, the whole front of the garden is going to look nice and tropical. So right out here in the front of the garden, I have pots. As you see, they're large pots. I filled those up with organic matter. I posted a video on that. Now, the garden over here is set up really cool. Got an entranceway, got a really big gate, because every now and then I'll get in there with the tractor on a non-season. I'll rip everything out, get in there with the tractor and build up my compost. Right now, the base of all that, I got about 3 foot of organic composted manures in there, plus chips and a lot of other good stuff. I got videos on that. And you'll notice all the way around my garden, all the way down and around, I got a cable over the fence. Well, that cable is to stop the deer from jumping over. It works 100%. I have not had one deer hop over that fence. Although out here on the property every night you got deer walking through eating the vegetation that I leave out for them. So the deer are here. I've even had some bedding down right up against the gate going in. I've got all that on video. So what I decided to do along the top, utilizing all of the cabling that I put up there, which prevents the deer, I just one day said, boy, that would be great for grapevines. So all the way down, all the way around my whole garden and back, and all the way along the front, and all the way down to the back hugelkultur area, I have muscadine grapevines growing up. That looks great in the summer. Got the greenage hanging down, the vegetation, the leaves, and then you got the grapes on them. So I love eating the grapes when I'm walking in the garden. I just every now and then eat some. It's a source of fluid and it tastes great. So anyway, I have muscadine vines spaced out, the proper spacing. That way they grow. You got to cut, you got to trim, you got to fertilize, and we'll go over that soon. Now going into the garden, let's take a look. Well, every morning I got to go into the garden and I got to open up my gate. Now, over the years, I got to keep raising this gate up because I keep building up out here with chips. The chips turns into organic compost. So even my walkways out here, once upon a time, was Florida soil. Now it's all organic. You could plant in every bit of this. So every now and then I raise it up. And when you raise it up, it opens up a lot easier than scraping the ground. So coming on in here right now, you'll notice that I have plastic over my pots on this side and plastic over my pots on that side. Now these are going to be all peppers that I already direct sowed, and you can see I got this on because it's a little chilly out here this morning. A few more days is going to be April. It's going to get up there into the 80s. I probably could have waited a few days, but I was anxious to get those in. So a group member on my gardening group, Dylan Reeves, went ahead and recommended putting plastic over it because that's what he does on his greenhouse at home to grow all his peppers and tomatoes and stuff like that, to where I normally sow all mine in the house on shelving under LED lights with a heat mat. So it was a great idea, so I'm utilizing it. Now I did sow and plant and had a bunch of potted peppers that are already planted out here, but I miscalculated because I put a lot more in the ground this year, and I wanted to direct sow some to see how it all works out. So hopefully these will grow. If they don't, I'll direct sow a little bit more when it does get hotter out. But that should keep the moisture in there, and it should also keep the heat in there. So as you can see, going down my garden over here, I have rows going this way and they're divided up. The reason why they're divided up is I wanted to do an arch walkway. I could pull my gorilla cart down the center and down each one of those walkways, so I don't have to lug in fertilizer or my tools, or when I'm ripping up plants, I could just pull right up, rip them up, put them in the cart and haul them off. It just makes it easier to have a good wide walkway for yourself and the cart. But anyways, all the trellises are going to have vine plants that go up and over. Hopefully that all works out. It did in previous years, but you never know according to a crop. But if you look at the bottoms of them, right now I'm off to a good start. On this first one, I got Blue Lake Stringless string beans. It always grows in really thick, produces a whole lot of stringless string beans that taste great. I love them, my neighbors love them, and it gives a good focal point when you open up the gate of your garden, because that's about the thickest. But then again, all my other vine plants, from cucumber to zucchini to melons, they all do good and they all go over. Takes a lot of training, but it does work out. So my first row over here, I have metal trellis pipe going across, and those are all eggplants. I like my eggplants to be right up front. They're plentiful. They grow between 50 and 100 eggplants on each plant at any given time all summer long. The only thing that killed them off this season in the beginning was we had a hard frost and it just wiped them out. So I pulled them up and I'm starting over. So anyway, those are all planted. They're in the ground. They're only about this big right now. And later on in the season, I'm going to have a hard time chopping off the tops because they just keep going and going and going. And I love my eggplants. And then, as you can see, on all my beds over here, I have drip irrigation. Well, the drip irrigation is what waters each and every plant with an emitter head. The emitter heads on most of them are 1 gallon, but I do have some that are half a gallon, and I do have some that are 2.5 gallons. which I'll show you in a bit. Each one of my beds over here has a shut-off valve. The reason why I use that shut-off valve is when I'm watering in the morning, if I have a problem with an emitter, I can shut the valve off, swap out the emitter. If I have a problem with anything, I could just shut it off and work on it. So it's really good to have a shut-off. And if you look all the way down and you look all the way back, each bed has a shut-off. So let's go ahead and walk down this way and we'll get over to my watermelon area. Oh, by the way, this right here, this is a bee waterer. This water stays in here, the bees land on here, and they drink the water. If you did not have rocks in there or wood on there, the bees will go in and drown. So that's a bee waterer. I just set it up on a log so it looks good. It makes a really good sturdy platform, and I got water flowing. And the bees just love it. As you can see, I went ahead and planted tomato plants. They all doing pretty well. Same thing going down this way. Now, the tomato plants are going to grow up the trellis. I just have to train them a little bit. They're going to grow up. So this year in the garden, I have a trellis, which the tomatoes are going up. And then on the other side, I have peppers and other plants. So I got tall plants and then low-lying plants. Now up on the top, over here, you see that rail going down? Right here, all the way down, that's on both sides. This is gonna hold my shade cloth. So up on the top of each bed, not the trellises in the middle, but each bed on both sides is gonna be 100%, 30% shade cloth, and your plants love shade cloth. Florida sun bakes all your vegetables. It'll bake the tomatoes, it'll bake the eggplants, it'll bake your peppers. On the peppers, it will show sunburn on them, and that ruins the fruit. So when you got shade cloth, the leaves look better, the fruit look better, all around it's plant health. So I love shade cloth. So let's continue. Okay, so coming down to this last bed, I just draped shade cloth over this trellis right here, just so in the afternoon it's putting some shade on what I already planted. I have romaine lettuce and I have other stuff that I sowed in there right now. I'm gonna have shade cloth over this soon, I just didn't get to it, so I'm giving them a little shade. And then over here I direct sowed row crop in there between that tomato trellis and this tomato trellis. So this is enough row crop for me to eat. That's enough row crop for me to eat. The lettuce is coming up. I'll soon be harvesting it to eat. In the house, I got hydroponics lettuce that I eat when that is not growing. So hopefully I'll have hydroponics all year long grown in the house, because what happens in a garden, your lettuce comes up, you're eating them every other day or whatever, and then your tomatoes come up. About time your tomatoes ripen, all your lettuce start bolting, and then you're having tomatoes with no lettuce. So in Florida, you got to grow some lettuce in the house if you want them with your tomatoes, or you're going to the store. There's no other choice. So now we're at the back side of the garden. As you can see, no matter if you're on the front side or back side, it looks really good. Now on the back side over here, I also got an entranceway, and you can see it's got muscadines growing over it because it goes completely around the Garden of Eden. It's just really nice in here, and they're in direct sun and they love it. So this year, what I'm doing different, you see all that ground cover, it goes down this way, and it goes all the way down that way. Last year I didn't have ground cover. I had the melons and the watermelons directly on the ground. There was chips down there. With the hot Florida humid that we have, the ground gets wet at night. Very damp in this area. The ground gets wet, the chips get wet, it creates a lot of humidity, and the humidity transfers onto the leaves, and that creates a little bit of fungus. The fruit still did great, but all the leaves start yellowing and dropping off towards the end of the season when it's really hot. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing what the professionals do. They do thousands of acres, and they lay down ground cover, not this quality stuff, but just plastic ground cover that has emitters built in that waters the watermelons. Well, I went with the professional nursery ground cover, and I cut slits in it. So the watermelons and vine plants are going to grow up on that. The sun's going to come out. It's going to evaporate the moisture that's on the plants and also on the ground cover. And I'm hoping that it eliminates the fungus that grows on them. Plus, I'll be using a fogger to help. Okay, so coming out here, let me show you what I done. Okay, so on each one of my vine plants, I have a T with 2 emitters. So the water goes out there and not directly on the vine. But as you can see, they're starting to grow in. Now these first couple of plants over here is squash, and I'm waiting for them to all come out. These did not start yet, but these started really quick. These are going to be 3 feet long cucumbers. Now as you can see, they went ahead and started coming out. So it depends on what you plant on how long it takes to come out. But you can see the emitters, and you can see my crop is already coming in. I come over here and I look just to see if it's stuck under there, because I got 2 sown in each one. This way I could take the better of the 2. This is a butternut squash. Now this golden gold right here, it's not doing well, so I may have to replace it. We'll get down to that in a second. But going down over here, going all the way down that way, you can see I got my melons in. I sowed some seeds in some of them. I had a vine borer get into one of them and cut it. But now it's time for me to fertilize and start watering, which I'm going to do now. Okay, so I got one already came up over here. So right over here I got more muscadines. They're double row. There's a top row and a bottom row. And so I got a grapevine vineyard right down in the center here, plus the ones over. I'm utilizing my space. So the grapes are up above, and I'm utilizing the space below. Now, I plant my vine plants in a row just a little bit away from the center trellises, but I got enough space for the vine plants to grow up. Now the watermelon plants, when they grow up just about all the way to the fence, and they really don't go through the fence but 1 or 2, so they're spaced out perfectly for growing melons. Okay, so over here This is my potted area. They're staggered like that, so I could walk and pull the cart down that side, this side, or I could walk through the middle, and I could go around each one of them and service them. And you can see over here, I direct sowed these. These are Butternut Squash. They're coming in. They're looking good. I put chips. The chips help to keep the moisture in, and it also helps from weeds coming up. They seem to be doing really well. Now on this one here, just one came up. The other one didn't. So that's okay. I got two there, and only one come up. That's all right. And then I got different plants going down all the way. Some of them I direct sowed. Some of them I brought in from the house. The majority of them are coming up already. Some are not. We did have some rain, so they went ahead and got watered. But it looks to me like they need some fertilizer, and they need a little bit of spraying. I do see a little bit of holes in some of the leaves. Here's a Sugar Rush peach right here. But it does look like something was on the leaf. I don't see it offhand, but I'm going to come out here and I'm going to spray. Okay, so you've seen the garden, you've seen my vining area. Now let's go over and I'll show you how I fertilize. And on the way, I'll show you over here. This whole area over here, you can see the mounds. This is my hugelkultur area. Logs in the ground, compost on top. I keep having the compost decay and go down. It's going to be really nice organic beds, all of it. And this is what the beds look like so far right here. If I go ahead and grab some, you can see it's looking like dirt. I could probably plant in this right now, but I'm just going to let it age a little bit more. So this is a mound. This is so my tractor goes through. This is a hugelkultur mound. This is for my tractor go through. Now in the center, these aisleways are also chips. So every now and then I'll take the tractor, come in, and you can see the pile over there. That's really good organic earth. So I scrape some up and I use it when I'm potting plants and stuff like that, which I already did. Some of the pots that I planted in has got that in it already. So right here is a hugelkultur. This is an aisleway. Once again, this aisleway is pure organic composted chips. This is another hugelkultur bed, mounded up really nicely. There's another tractor aisle, and there's a hugelkultur bed and a tractor aisle. And then also along this way, last year I had tomato plants out here. This year I'm doing something different, so I'm just letting it age. Okay, so we're back out. You'll notice I got gates all over the place. That's so when I need to, I could get my tractors in. And you can see the muscadines go up above. Now this is a birdhouse I made out of a log. Last year I had blue birds in there that went ahead and had eggs, and they had little bluebird babies come out. And this year I seen the baby bluebirds back, and they're in there making a nest now. She's not in there right now. She might have seen me and flew, but I don't want to disturb them. So out here, this is another banana bed right here. These are banana plants, but they're in pots. I just put them over there and covered them up when we had that big freeze to protect the corms in the pots. Same with those. I'm going to be removing those this week and getting them out of here, so this will be all flat. Then I'm going to finish up these beds like that, and I'm going to be planting some really good rare variety banana plants, which I already have. That's a surprise video coming up. And here's another banana bed. So if you go into my hugelkultur area from this side, once again, I have a big gate. My tractor could go in through all of this, but you'll notice on the end of each hugelkultur bed, I got banana plants growing, and they're rare varieties. And I think that's a good touch, hugelkultur banana plants. And I'll have a nice crop of some rare variety banana plants. The names are in videos when I planted them. And you'll notice over here, the other day I needed some sandy soil. So I came in and grabbed some bucketfuls with the tractor of sandy soil and brought it over to my compost. I made 3 piles and I tilled it and mixed it in so I could go ahead and plant over there in my pots. So getting to compost and fertilizer and stuff like that, this here was just dumped here yesterday. That's a pile of fresh manure. Smells good. Going down to this pile down here, you can see I got sand that I use. Other plants growing around. I'll show you that later. Okay, I got Mexican sunflower growing over here. Mexican sunflower growing right over here. And this is a manure pile. Now this manure pile, I take the fresh stuff and I keep piling it up. It's a really hot pile, so it's composting. And then after it composts for a while, I come in here. Look at all those mushrooms growing out of it. But after that compost, I put it in a pile over there and I turn it over. And then once it's ready, I move it out over there. You can see things got a little muddy in here. There was water laying and I had to come in here and put a pile over here. Remember I said I grabbed the sand. I put sand here. I grabbed some of my manure over there. I put that there. And then I took some aged compost and I put that there. And I mixed it in. So this is horse manure, sand, and composted chips. And I mixed it in. And that's what's in my pots over there. So it's got a little bit of everything. So this manure is ready to use. That manure won't be ready for some time now. These are logs that I use for hugelkultur. Now you can see the chips steaming up here. Well, that's fresh chips. That's going to take about 1.5 years to turn into this right over here. So this is good composted chips right here. It's almost soil. And then over here, I got some Mexican sunflower. I got a pond that I dug. And I got banana plants all the way back there. Everything got hit with the hard freeze, but it's making a good comeback. I got some Mexican sunflower and Comfrey Bakken 14 over there. Everything is growing good. You can see they're in pots over here. If anybody wants some Mexican sunflower, get in touch with me down below. Go to my group, PM me. I do sell those. Also, over here, this is all Compost Tea. made out of Mexican sunflower and comfrey Balkan 14. All of these are filled, and that's filled. It's all fermented and aged and ready to use this year. Okay. Okay, so we're getting ready to get into the fertilization. So right in here is my well pump, and right over here is a 5-gallon bucket, and this is a spigot right here. I turn on the spigot, fill up this bucket, I drop this into the bucket, the fertilizer goes through the hose to my Venturi Fertilizer Injector right over there. It goes through the lines all the way to the garden and drips out of each and every drip head. So each and every plant is going to get the same amount of fertilizer twice a week. My garden gets watered every day, and I fertilize through my system twice a week. Now, we're going to walk back over to the garden, and I'm going to show you what I put next to every plant, because I'm going to put granules in there to help with plant growth, to help have a healthier plant, and also prevent blossom end rot and disease and stuff like that. So let's get back to the garden. Then we're going to come back over here. I'm going to fill this up, and I'm going to fertilize. So let's get going. Okay, so using my gorilla cart, I go ahead and I haul stuff around because these bags are pretty heavy. That was a 40-pound bag, and I got a couple in here, and then I got other stuff. So I might be hauling around 200 pounds of stuff at any given time, pulling. So why carry it? Just put it in a grill cart. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and put some more emitter heads on my vining plants over there, because all the watermelons are getting double red emitters. So I planted some other vining crops over there that are like squash, and they don't want to get 5 gallons an hour, they want 1 gallon an hour. So I'm going to put 2 half-gallon emitter heads on each side so they get 1 gallon an hour. But getting back to fertilization, I like utilizing Vigoro. This product right here, I'll have it down below. I get it at Home Depot. On each and every one of my plants, especially the tomato plants. The tomato plants love it. It's time released, and it'll prevent blossom end rot. This is the Agrothrive I use. It's for fruiting plants. I use it each and every year. My plants love it. Look at any of my garden tours when the plants are fruiting, or just wait for this year and you'll see what I'm talking about. But if I were you right now, I'd go on to agrothrive.com and I would order some for your fruiting plants, and they got a different one for your green plants. Me, I just use this on all of them. It's a little bit more expensive than the green, but you can really notice a huge difference in the green, the leaves, the foliage, and the fruit are going to be larger. You're not going to have blossom end rot, but the taste, it really improves the taste. If you had one tomato plant here and one here, use this on one and not the other, and you tasted both identical, it's going to taste better when you use this. You just have to trust me on that, because I noticed the difference. Now, I use different things like fish emulsion. Right now I got some liquid kelp. So I'm going to go ahead and put some liquid kelp in with the Agrothrive, just because I have this. and I'm going to fertilize everything. But for now, what I need to do is I need to give all my plants some granules. Now with the row crop, it's going to be a little bit different this year. I can't just take it and throw it down, so let me go ahead and see how I want to apply it. Okay, so normally I just take this and I put it right there, but now I have row crop. I don't know if I want to put it on top, so since I cut these X's out, and this is where my emitter goes down, so instead of putting it on top like that, and it will blow around, I'm going to take a handful and put it right there under the emitter. I'm going to come over to this one. I'm going to take a handful. I'm going to put it right there under the emitter. So when the emitter drips, it's washing in the granules. That's one of the good reasons about having the slits. You could put your hand in it. So I'm going to do the same with all of those. Just put your hand under there, go like this, it rolls off, and that's how I'm going to go ahead and fertilize them. So let me go ahead and continue, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I went ahead and fertilized all of my tomato plants only throughout the whole garden. All of my vine plants and all of my peppers and eggplants, I feel they're just a little bit too young to get the granules. In another week or two I'll do that. For right now they'll be getting liquid Agrothrive, and that's plenty for them. So they'll have fertilizer, they just won't have any granules. So I'm going to leave the granules for those. And the row crop, all of my row crop is only getting Agrothrive at the moment. So as you can see out here, you can see I went ahead and fertilized my muscadines over there. And I fertilized all of my vine plants. And I fertilized them where the emitter goes in the ground. See this fertilizer under there. Same thing with my muscadines. They got 10-10-10, and they got the calcium pellets. It's called limestone pellets. Okay, so for all of my pots over here, I sprinkled a little bit of pellets all the way around all of them. Just a little bit. That will wash through the chips to the plants, and I only sprinkled a little bit around each. And I went ahead and did all of my melons down here and all of the muscadines all the way down the hugelkultur, all the way around the whole garden. Everything's got done. So okay, now it's time for me to go ahead and fertilize with my fertilizer injector all of my plants. So let's go ahead and get over there and I'll show you how that works. See you in a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I did was I turned on my well pump. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill this bucket over here with water like that, just plain water. Okay, I'm going to drop this in. So before I put all the fertilizer in there, I want to make sure that the injector is working properly. So let me get in there and check this out. Okay, so looking at that filter right there, there's dirt and algae in there, so there's not enough suction power, so I got to go take that off and clean it, and it'll create more suction. Okay, so you can see right here, that's clogged up a little bit, so I'm going to open up this valve on the bottom. See it flowed out? There's a little bit more in there, but you can see it flowed out. So I'm going to turn on the pump. Trying to get all of it to flush out. Now you can see all of it flushed out. A little bit more debris in there. Okay, that looks good. Now if I turn the pump on, there's no more debris. A couple little specks. Okay, so that's looking good. Let's get back over there. You can see that's flowing nice. I put this around here so it doesn't get algae. But evidently there's still light going in there, so I got to put something better over that. Okay, so I'm back at the Venturi Fertilizer Injector, and you'll see this little float up here is moving, but it's not all the way up. You'll see the pressure there is full, and you'll see down there it's a little lower. I have to adjust it, and that's going to create more suction power here. So let me get to it. Okay, so sometimes it takes longer to troubleshoot something than it's supposed to. The Venturi Fertilizer Injector has a certain amount of flow to create a certain amount of suction. I took off some of my tubing for the hugelkultur area watermelons and some of the soaker hoses. So less water was coming out the emitters because there was less emitters. So I went ahead and put the hugelkultur watermelon hose back in, tubing, and I added some more soakers to the garden. And now my pressure's up, so I could go ahead and fertilize properly, and I can move this into the position that I want. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of fertilizing. Okay, so right over here I got the bucket. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up with some Agrothrive. Go ahead and shake it. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the bucket. Going to go ahead and do some liquid kelp. Okay, that's also going in the bucket. Now I'm going to fill the bucket up. I'm filling up the bucket. Okay, so as you can see, that's all fertilizer. Okay, so right over here, I'm going to adjust this. So it comes up. Okay, so that's all the way down. Now I'm going to adjust it right there so it goes up. See, I can make it go all the way up or halfway. I just want it basically halfway like that. You can see the color of the tubing now. The fertilizer is going through, and it's going up here, and it's going all the way to the garden. Okay, so right here the fertilizer is coming out of the bucket, going through the tube, going through the injector, all the way out to the garden. So now all those drip heads are dripping, the silica hoses are soaking. So finally all the plants are getting a little bit of fertilization and water. So I'm just waiting for this bucket to go down. It's already going down. You can see it here, it was full, now it's going down. So in a few minutes it would be fertilized. So there's nothing else to do right now except wait. So normally I go to the garden and I make sure everything is working proper out there. So let's go take a peek. Okay, so we'll walk through the garden, and all my pots are dripping on both sides. I have these covered up, but the emitters are dripping. All in the garden over here. All my emitters are dripping. Everything's getting fertilized. You can see it dripping out. That's going to fertilize the tomato plants like that. So as I'm walking, I could just look down like that, and you could see that everything's getting fertilized. It's puddling up. The silica hoses are soaking. And right in here, I planted the other day, and look at all those plants coming up over here. I'll put that silica hose over it. And same thing over here. All that's getting soaked. Everything's fertilized now. All the drips are dripping. The only thing I gotta do is make sure nothing's clogged up. So here you go, everything's getting watered right here. Same thing over here, everything is getting fertilized right now. Oh, that came off. I gotta go ahead and fix that. I'll just put this up here for now. Okay, so there you go. That's how you go ahead and fertilize your garden. You could go around with the hose and water, and you could go around with the little bucket and fertilize everything with Agrothrive. That's fine, as long as it washes down the granules into the garden, as long as it's getting Agrothrive fertilizer. I just went ahead and built a Venturi Fertilizer Injector system hooked up to the pump. So my whole garden, all my watermelons, all my pots, all my muscadine vines, and eventually the hugelkultur area, everything gets watered at the same time. But there is pressure guidelines that you got to follow with the Venturi. If you restrict it by eliminating a zone, it won't have that suction. So the more water flow, the better it sucks. So I could tell right now that I need to go ahead and finish up my hugelkultur area and put a couple tubes out that way just to get some more water flow, which I'll tackle. So anyway, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. Give it a try. It'll make your life a lot easier. Later.